Hello, friends, and welcome to day 487 of quarantine. I'm coming to you from my home office. We've got St. Francis of Assisi over the shoulder there waving to us. Hey, Francis. And Miranda asked me to share just a short reflection with you for our virtual worship during Lent. If you're where I am in any kind of way right now, you are feeling maybe a bit lonely, a bit disconnected from your community. There may be some sadness associated with all of this. There may be some anxiety related to the uncertainty of the situation, or there may even be this sense of constriction, like the walls are closing in. Here we are in our homes, and I was joking about day 487, but it feels that way as the walls close in, as we're told that we can't go out and visit friends as we normally visit friends. And I find myself going to lament psalms these days, and I want to read to you just a portion of Psalm 44. All of this came upon us, though we had not forgotten you. We'd not been false to your covenant. Our hearts had not turned back. Our feet had not strayed from your path. But you crushed us and made us a haunt for jackals. You covered us over with deep darkness. If we had forgotten the name of our God or spread out our hands to a foreign God, would not God have discovered it, since he knows the secrets of the heart? Yet for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. Awake, Lord, why do you sleep? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our misery and oppression? We are brought down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up and help us. Rescue us because of your unfailing love. We are brought down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up and help us. Rescue us because of your unfailing love. We begin Lent on Ash Wednesday with the words, "You are dust, and to dust you shall return." And we had hopes of staying away from chocolate for a few weeks, giving up that glass of wine that we enjoy so much, spending a little less time on social media. Little did we know at the beginning of Lent that we would find ourselves quarantined for an indefinite period of time. And yet here we are. And it might sound like an exaggeration to listen to a psalm like that. Think, that's not where I am right now. This isn't that hard. I don't know if that's the case right now for Mike Gore, though. Mike Gore is one of my Doctor of Ministry students, and Mike and two members of his family have COVID-19. We're hoping that Mike, in just about 25 minutes from now, might join a group of us in my D-Min cohort on a phone call or on a Google Meet, where we'll be able to see him and pray for him and be with him in the midst of this. But I suspect that he feels just a little bit like the psalmist right now, that in a sense, he has been returned to the dust. He's experiencing the fullness of his human limitation, brokenness, fear, uncertainty, powerlessness. And that's where I find myself. If I'm honest with myself, I do find at least a part of myself in that place. I like the privilege of waking up in the morning, and my students know this, waking up and after some time of reflection here, maybe in my office in the morning, going out perhaps to the gym and then perhaps to Starbucks, always to Starbucks to get my morning cup of nitro, perhaps to Ferris Coffee to sit there and drink a cup of nitro, over to the seminary, into chapel, to coffee hour. There's a kind of predictable rhythm to my life. I didn't realize how habitual it was, how used to it I was, well, until the last couple of weeks. Over the last couple of weeks, things are different. Now we have this stay-at-home order, which when I think about it, I don't like very much, because I like on Friday nights saying to Sarah, hey, where do you want to go out to eat tonight? How about we go down to that place down in Saugatuck that we like so much? That sounds good. Let's do that. I like my freedom, and you like your freedom. We are dust, and to dust we shall return. We're experiencing limitation in ways that folks in our community experience limitation all the time. I think about Todd, and I don't presume in any way to equate this experience with any sense of understanding Todd's experience. But I've been Todd's colleague now for 6.5 years, and he experiences very real limits in his physical body. And so we accommodate those limits for him, but he can't do all the things that many of us can do. I think of students who have compromised immune systems and who are waking up on this day thinking to themselves, this isn't terribly different than I experienced the rest of my life. I live with limitation. I've got to keep my distance. When you're sick, I can't go near you. So maybe in this season we're growing in empathy. Maybe in this season we are learning to embrace just a bit of our own limitation with humility. The word that keeps coming to mind for me is the word surrender. It's a word that has been overused and maybe trivialized in the Christian tradition. But I was spending some time over the last few days returning to the work of a man named Les Fehmi, Fehmi, in a work that was written maybe 20 years ago with a journalist named Jim Robbins called The Open Focus Brain. And in his 40 or so years of study of the human brain, one of the things that Fehmi says is that we live constricted lives. We live in narrow focus. He says we have to live in a kind of narrow focus to do the things that we need to do in life. A little bit of focus is good for us. And a lot of focus helps us to get the things done that we need to get done. It helps me to get a book written. It helps me to prepare for class. But in a season like this, we're in ultra narrow focus. We're even more constricted than we normally are. And we feel it in our bodies. If you experience some anxiety in your body, if you're prone to trauma responses of fight or flight or fawn or freeze, you know this in your body. If there's just a little part of you that you'd be honest enough to admit wants to run away from this, or wants to rage against COVID, as one of my counseling clients said the other day, you know a little bit of this in your body. And as the walls close in, as it feels like the restrictions become constrictions in our soul and in our being, one of the things that we learn, not just from Les Fehmi and Open Focus Brain, but one of the things that we learn from the tradition is that surrender opens us up to the spaciousness that is God. In fact, one of the reasons we begin Lent with "You are dust, and to dust you shall return" is to remember that limitation is good for us. That limitation actually opens up greater vistas of freedom in our lives. Too much freedom is not good for us. And so as we limit ourselves, we actually discover new and deeper resources within that we perhaps didn't even know were there. And so I've spent the last couple of days practicing exercises from the Open Focus Brain, imagining the space around my body and the space in the room, and taking it a step further than Les Fehmi, remembering that this is spirit space. That is our old friend and colleague Gandalf, Tom Bogart, used to say, all of life is sacramental. That God is present even here and even right now. And we sometimes crowd God out in our narrow constriction, in our busy lives, with our narrowly focused ways of being and attending in the world. And what Les Fehmi says is that our way of attending, our way of attention, actually changes the neural networks in our brain. We know that the way we attend can either lead us to more limitation, more constriction, and less freedom, or to more spaciousness, deeper connection with one another, a greater sense of knowing and being known. And so in this Lent, we've been offered an opportunity, and I don't use that word lightly. I think it's being overused, but I think of it in the most sanctified of ways. This is an opportunity for surrender. In the midst of the constriction and in the midst of the restrictions of this season, that there is plenty of space right here and right now. God occupied space within and around us, the Spirit just waiting for us to notice. God's grace and peace to you, my friends. I miss you.